Welcome. I'm back. First stream in almost a year, and we are doing a paranormal podcast. So, if you have anything paranormal, go ahead. Let's hear them. I can put you in a future episode with your story, or if you're in the chat, I can go ahead and just talk about your story. No big deal. Make sure that my sound is okay. As soon as it loads up. Anybody that's in chat, if you can hear me, I would be greatly appreciated if you let me know, because my stuff's not working for some odd reason. There we go. Oh, it's working. It's working. Okay, cool. Everybody can hear me fine. We're good to go. Okay. So, what we're going to do today is Gore Orphanage. I don't know if you know the Legends of Gore Orphanage, but it's right up the road from me, just outside of Vermillion, Ohio. Heard a lot of back and forth on it. It's really haunted. It's not really haunted. I've heard stories of children's hands showing up on windows, like car windows and whatnot, voices, screams, all that fun stuff. But we're going to get down into it. I'm going to give the legend. I'm going to talk about a little bit about it. And at a later date, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do my own investigation to see what's really there. If you live in the area and you would like to go, let me know. The more the merrier, I say. So, starting things off with the legend. The legend goes, and this is a direct quote, this is the actual legend itself, is a nightmare scene in the countryside of Vermillion on Gore Road over 100 years ago. A gigantic fire engulfs an old orphanage, burning dozens of young children alive. Desperate to escape the inferno, the children on the second floor found the stairs blocked by flames. Dreadful screams of the children trapped inside the blazing building pierced the ears of horrified onlookers, unable to stop the carnage. The deadly destruction continues until the screams finally fall silent, and the only sound that lingers is the crackling and roar of the hellish flames. The smoke ascends into the night sky, carrying with it the souls of over 100 poor orphan children. The building is soon reduced to a pile of glowing embers, with only a remnant of the foundation and stone pillars forever preserved for future generations to happen upon. So that's the official legend of Gore Orphanage. Hopefully, we can break it down a little bit. From what I know, people still go there. You have to be careful going there though, because the groundskeeper there he doesn't really like people showing up. So when I go, I'm gonna get special permission to do it for the show. So we'll see what happens. Now, the true information that I know, that I've researched on, and I spent a little while researching this before coming into it. Here's the true stuff. Now, people really have been going there for 100 years. They visited Gore Orphanage Road and have reported glowing lights, apparitions, chilling cries of unseen children, and it's also supposedly one of the most haunted places in Ohio. Now, the name of the orphanage, the actual name, a lot of people say that it's called Gore Orphanage. That's not true. The road itself was Gore Road, and it was named like that because when they were doing the lines for the counties, when they were laying the roads down, that particular strip of road looked like a Gore of a dress. so they named it Gore Road. The actual name of the orphanage was called Light of Hope, and it was established in 1902 by a man named a reverend named John Joanne. I'm not sure how it's properly pronounced. Sprunger. Um, Much later on, as the legend started to develop and everything, and due to the popularity of the the story, the road itself was changed to Gore Orphanage Road. Um, now I'll give a little bit of backstory of the reverend that started the orphanage. He moved to the Vermilion area after his old orphanage. This part is true. His old orphanage burnt down, and that orphanage was in Indiana. That fire was reported to have killed three girls in it. That was again in Indiana, not in Vermilion. He moved to Vermilion. I think it's a little bit of a coincidence too that the legend was that a fire burnt down that the orphanage in Vermilion on Gore Orphanage Road, because two other businesses that he had also ended because of a fire and it being burnt down. Him and his wife also lost their 7-year-old daughter and a son that was born that was a stillbirth. Now all these things kind of come together and it forms this huge story, this legend of Gore Orphanage. Now this new orphanage, the one that is in the legend for Vermilion, it was opened just outside of Vermilion, and it consisted of 4 sets of farm buildings that covered a total of 543 acres. That's a lot of land, you know. On the land, there was also an old abandoned mansion, which I will cover that later on. The mansion itself has its own story to it, and if I remember correctly in my notes, I have bits of information about it. As a matter of fact, it's right here. The mansion itself was built by a man named Joseph Swift, and it was built in 1831. Or, I'm sorry, not in 1831. I'm jumping ahead of myself. It was built in the 1800s, and he had on that in the mansion 2 children that passed away. One of them was his 5-year-old daughter, and the other one was his 24-year-old son. Later on, after the deaths of his 2 children, he ended up selling his mansion to a man named Nicholas Wilbur, and he was a spiritualist, a very renowned spiritualist who conducted rituals and seances and everything like that. He held that all regularly inside of the mansion, and he ended up, according to legend, he ended up conjuring up the spirits of the deceased children that passed away in the mansion. Now, moving a little bit further ahead here, there are a lot of rumors and stories of darkness and despair that happened at the orphanage. There was reports of several orphans running away, wading through the Vermilion River into Vermilion to escape these stories. And there were stories of abuse and neglect and slave labor all happening there. They were said to have eaten a diet of what consisted of hog heads, sick cattle, and calf lungs. You know, baby cow lung. Yeah, that does sound good. They had corn, and that corn was boiled in the same water, in the same pots and everything that was used to boil soiled underwear. So their diet was really, really bad. Inside the rooms themselves, they were infested with rats and other various vermin. In the boys' room, it was said to have. I'm sorry, the boys' bathroom. It was said to have only had one bathtub and they all had to use the same water, and they were only allowed to take a bath once every 2 weeks. I want you to think about that for a second. You know, you're a little boy, you're playing, and you get dirty, and if the slave labor rumor is true, then you're all sweaty and everything from that, and you get a bath once every 2 weeks. Um, yeah. Moving on. Um, the children also told stories of Sprunger and the farm overseers beating them with a strap until they had real big raw welts all over their bodies. Um, he Sprunger also went ahead and started renting out rooms to inmates, and to neighboring farmers, and they never, if a child got ill or got a real bad disease and needed to see a doctor, they only they did the whole spirit healing thing. They didn't take them to a doctor to do any healing. Now, a lot of people are thinking, or I know a lot of people will be thinking and saying, you know, how come they didn't have any investigations and everything? Well, that was because in 1909 there was an investigation conducted, but at that time the state of Ohio had no laws or regulations pertaining to operations of such institution, so nothing could be done about it at that time. Now it's completely different. Um, but this fire that was said to have taken it actually happened. They took a story from over here and did some twists and turns and slapped it over here. The actual fire that happened in 1908 it happened 40 miles east of Vermilion in a town called Collinwood, and there was 176 elementary school students who were burned and or trampled to death when they became trapped inside of a school that had burnt down. So that's where the actual fire took place. It didn't happen at Gore Orphanage, it happened there. So towards the end of the story here, for those of you who are like, oh, he needs to die and everything, he actually did die 2 years after that first investigation, and the doors of the orphanage were closed, permanently closed. They never reopened, and that happened in July of 1916 after years of financial troubles. Pelham Hooker Blossom of Cleveland bought the orphanage property and leased it to farmers for a period, and then they finally ended up selling the land. The mansion, which is called the Hughes House, it still remains on the property, and only parts of the orphanage building burnt, and then they ended up tearing it down. Now, what I mean by it burnt over time, because there was a lot of people that would go there and they would do things they shouldn't be, and they burnt some of it down, and all this happened after the orphanage was closed. So no actual children died at the orphanage, contrary to what everybody believes and contrary to what the legend says. The children that were at the Light of Hope orphanage, they were dispersed throughout the community or returned to their relatives. And for those children, the nightmare was over at Gore Orphanage, which is a great thing. Now, a little bit about Swift's Hollow, which is where Gore Orphanage is. The Light of Hope Orphanage. That's where this whole thing's happening. It's called Swift's Hollow. It's the location most visited by those who are going to see if this story is legit. And you can tell where it is because there's a sandstone column and it's got graffiti all over, and that marks the entrance to the area. Today, all that remains of the mansion itself are sandstone blocks that form its foundation. Now, talking about the ghosts of Gore Orphanage, in a old podcast that I did. It's actually the start of this. Um, I did it a while ago. It's on YouTube, not on this channel, not the channel that this one's going to be going on, but it's a different one. I talked about all the different types of hauntings and everything, and different types of ghosts on that one. One thing that I didn't cover on that one, which I'm going to go over now, is esoteric imprints. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's like kind of like a snapshot in time. In this type of haunting, certain incidents, they just repeat themselves over and over and over and over and over. They can be seen, they can be heard, and they can be felt, and even smelled if it's strong enough. Typically, they are a tragic imprint, and they can relocate themselves over time to different areas of extremely high paranormal activity. If it's got a lot of energy, it can get moved over there. Now, the Reverend's body was buried in a cemetery in Indiana, not in Ohio. Some say that his soul still wanders the grounds of the Light of Hope. Could be, could not be, but ghostly apparitions, balls of lights, and haunting screams of children and visions of fire have all been reported by people who have gone to Gore Orphanage. Many claim to have found dusty fingerprints of children while returning to their cars, like I mentioned at the beginning. That's really all that there is to cover with Gore Orphanage itself. I've gotten a couple of stories that I'd like to share with you. One was someone that went to Gore Orphanage, and that story was nothing happened. They went and they saw nothing, which is, a typical thing. The other one, this was submitted by a buddy of mine. I gotta find the whole story here. Okay. And this one, I'm thinking about doing a lot of research and going into it at a later time, because the story, it caught my attention, not even gonna lie. It happens in Berea, Kentucky. It's a campus at Berea College campus, and this is going to be another direct quote. I'm just going to read it exactly how he says it. He says, I was outside one night smoking a cigarette and just wandered around because it had just snowed when I saw a young girl in a white dress with no jacket. So I started to walk to her because I was going to let her use mine. But she walked behind a tree and disappeared. When I tried asking some of the people I knew on campus about her, they all shut up real quick. A few people actually stopped talking to me because I saw her. Supposedly, if you see her, you disappear. Instead, she followed me around for a few years, so it was kind of creepy. I always connected her to the woods down there, but later found out she was a wandering spirit a group of Wiccans tried to exorcise and failed. They ended up releasing her from the spot she was originally seen at. So as far as I know, she wanders the campus in the woods and sometimes takes the form of a white balloon. Now, I've never heard of any spirit taking the form of a white balloon. An orb, I've heard that one, but not a white balloon, so I'm going to look into that. He says the story is unreliable only in the fact that it's hard to get info. Berea College was a fucked up place, from the satanic cult that lived there to the hanging tree and the serial killer that was never caught after killing some joggers, and lots of suicides. He says it's fucked up. So that was in Berea, Kentucky. So if you're watching this, or if you're watching it live, let me know your thoughts. If I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube in the next couple of days, let me know if you hear anything or if you know any of the stories or anything about Berea, Kentucky, the Berea College down there, because I'm thinking about doing that one next week instead of doing Jen's and pushing Jen's back a week, because this story really caught my attention, and I would like to thank Michael for giving me that story. Um, so again, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want to know what your thoughts are on the Gore Orphanage, or if you've gone there. I want to hear your story. If you're wanting to go to Gore Orphanage, I want to hear about that. You can also tweet me at proside PROS1D3 with your thoughts. If you watch it on YouTube, comment for your thoughts, and for YouTube, make sure that you like and comment and subscribe. Yeah, that's about it. So thanks for stopping in, and I'll catch you all next week.